Hello everyone. Today I am going to be doing a scored review for the Mega Man Legacy Collection Rockman. Now, if you give me a second, I know what this stage entails, so let me get up to a more stable area. Now, this game was originally developed by Capcom and published by Capcom, but this particular version of it was developed by Digital Eclipse and published by Capcom. Now, Rockman, if you've played any of the Mega Man games, this is the first Mega Man game, but it is the Japanese version. And so, realistically, anything that's listed in the Rockman saga is the canonically correct one, because there's some things that are worded a little differently, like in the story and stuff. So I will cover this franchise the best I can, because I can't read Japanese, and I know there's a lot of it in the other games that's posted on the screen that they didn't translate. In this particular game, they did translate the enemy names, the ending, and all this other stuff, so this one wasn't as bad as some of the others. Now, in my reviews, I score based on 5 categories. That being story, graphics, music, sound effects, gameplay, mechanics and controls, and achievements. Now, for the story, as with like the original Mega Man game, this had practically no story. And thanks to the people at Digital Eclipse for translating the ending. I did appreciate they put that in. I actually was really surprised that some of this was translated to English. This is Mega Man. I could have beat the game without it. It just would have taken some trial and error if I couldn't read the ability names or something like that. But outside of that, they did a great job with the translation. Now, the story in this one, like, the only thing that really changes in the story in this game is the fact that Mega Man's name is Rockman in this game. So, I mean, there's not really any big change in the story. So, overall, it's a pretty weak story, just like it was in Mega Man. There's almost nothing there. You only see like a little bit right before the credits, and boom, done. Now, for the graphics, again, this was an old NES/Famicom game. The graphics weren't the best. They also weren't highly detailed. It's obvious that later versions of the game do look better, so I'm not going to knock them for that. This game was made in 1988, I think, so it's really old, but still, in today's date, this pixelated graphics does still look nice, even though it's dated looking. I've seen some pixel games that are created recently with more people that look far worse, so I'm not going to knock them on that. The graphics definitely still hold up to this day. Now, the music and sound effects, as with like what I always say about the Mega Man games, Rockman games are no different. They still have the same awesome music soundtrack, and this game is no different. It's, as far as I'm aware, this is the exact same soundtrack that's in Mega Man, so there's no change there. And it still sounds great. The sound effects of Mega Man jumping, shooting, like, ability changes and stuff like that, still as iconic as ever, so its music sound effects are still great sounding. Now, for the mechanics, gameplays, and controls, also, like I said with the original Mega Man game, this one, you have limited abilities, and the platforming in this game feels a little, I want to say, different. compared to the later Mega Man games. So it's probably because it's the first game, and Mega Man feels like, I heard someone else explain this, it makes him feel like he's got more weight to him, so it's harder to, and he kind of feels floatier when he jumps. But I mean, as the series goes on, they rectified all of that. So the actual gameplay itself it's pretty simple: run, jump, shoot, and you have different abilities to use against the different robot masters. The only issues I have with this is that, as I explained in a Mega Man 1 review, a lot of these abilities are situational. Like Bomb Man, I think I only ever used the Hyper Bomber on Gutsman. I don't think I used it on anything else. The Electric Beam is, well, if you played Mega Man 2, it's like the Metal Blade of Mega Man 1. It's all around useful pretty much everywhere, and it's useful on one of the end-game bosses. Now, Gutsman's got Super Arm, Strong Arm, whatever they call it. I can't remember. I think it's just Guts Arm. That one's situational. I only used it in like a handful of spots. One's against Cutman because there's Guts boulders Guts boulders in the room with him, and that's his weakness. Then in Wily's Castle, there's a couple of places where you can lift the boulders and throw them away that are required to progress. But if you all listening to this don't know, you can just select the Electric Beam and blast the rock, and it shatters the rock out of your way anyway. So it uses less energy, and it's a more versatile weapon versus the Guts boulder. But there's enough Guts energy, as you see here. I didn't fill up any of it during all of the Wily Castle stages, so I still have some left. And then against the third Wily boss, which it works against him, but there's not enough boulders in the room to kill him outright with it. But if you use the basic Buster Arm and, deplete the boss like 2 or 3 times when he goes through, I think it's 3 times, then you can swap to the Guts Arm and use the remaining boulders in the room to finish him, so no big deal. Completely situational. The Ice Beam, I literally only used it in 2 spots in the game. Well, 3. Fireman, and then against the really big, high damage jumping guys that show up at the beginning of the first Wily stage to freeze them, because this weapon freezes enemies in place when you hit them with it, which is good if you're just trying to get around them real quick. The only issue is those jumpy guys are random when they do high jumps, so you kind of have to get lucky with that. The Cuts Blade is all around useful, but I mean, most stages you can just run with your basic buster, so I didn't really use it much. It is useful against a couple of bosses, and being like Electman, and I use it against the final boss because it can hit the final boss multiple times. So when you throw it, you get anywhere between 2 to 4 ticks of damage on the final Wily if you throw it right. So it just works better for me than like the Electric Beam. The Fireman ability, that's another one that's like electric. It's a great all-arounder, but me personally, I only used it against the bosses that were weak to it. So I mean, Bomb Man, then you have Robot Double Mega Man, then the Wily Final Boss Part 1. It does like 2 damage per hit to the turret, so it destroys it quickly. And then finally the Magnet Beam, which is the only one not obtained from a Robot Master. This is found in Mega Man or Electman stage. You either need the Gut Strong Arm or you need to replay through the stage with Electman's weapon and blow the rock away to get to this. This item is required to beat the game. The first stage has an area that requires you to use the magnet beams just to progress. So you have to find this item in order to finish the game. Now, I wouldn't mind this item so much if it wasn't for the fact that it's mandatory. If it was mandatory, you should have done it like the later Mega Man games where you get it after beating a boss, and then like what they did in 4 where you have a couple of unique items where you get like a couple of items that you find in stages that are useful, but not necessarily to beat the game, will make certain areas simpler, something like that. Now for the achievements, this, just like Mega Man 1, I'm going to keep referencing the American ones because I played through them first. This game's achievements, it's the exact same thing. Just beat the game and then beat all the games. Whereas I've beat all 6 of the Mega Man games, so I already have the achievement for beating all the titles that are in the game, Mega Man, Rockman, 1 through 6, whichever version you want to do. So, all in all, I generally rate a game 5 out of 10 as average instead of the industry standard 7 or 8. In this game, just like its later American release version, it suffers in the story department. There's almost nothing there. The graphics, considering the time that it came out, still kind of hold up today, and everything pops out and looks pretty good to me. The music and sound effects are still great and high quality for the bit tunes that they used back then. The gameplay and controls are still solid, even though, you know, they're a little different. And the achievements are simply you just beat the game or have beaten all the games. That's the only 2 achievements tied to this particular game. So, all in all, I would say just like the original, there's not really much changed here other than like some of the dialogue during the ending. So I would definitely give this one a 6 out of 10 as well. There's not really a big difference that make this worth playing over the original, so pick whichever one you want. I really should have started with the Rockman games since they were canonically correct. So 6 out of 10. I'll see you guys in the next one, and with all things gaming, game logic, am I right?